Hey, this is my part two of the response to Christian unless you're gay. And I just want to backtrack a little bit and just repeat what I said towards the end of the last video just once because I already said it about 30 times. But Dan, if you were trying to in your video say that you have the right definition of love, which is obviously why you made the video in the first place, because you want to convince people and change their minds or change their hearts on what the definition of love is. My question to you is just if you aren't religious, and I'm assuming that means you don't believe in God, you don't believe that He's the standard of how we look to morality or how we look to define any of these terms. How do you even define love? Because if we're all there is, like I said, we're the ones who define these terms. And when we have a million different definitions, how can you even have any set definition for love, for hate, for right and wrong? You can't. Because, like you said in your video, none of us are perfect. I noticed that you said that. You said that we're all imperfect. And I'm curious how you came to that conclusion, because unless you have a standard of what perfection is, you can look to this and say, hey, this is what perfection is, and this is why we're imperfect. Unless that standard's already set in place, how do you know we're not perfect? It's because you believe in a moral standard and because you hold to a moral standard that you can say, this is perfection and we're all imperfect. And I could even make the argument if I wanted to. I know this wasn't your intent, but for you to even say that we're imperfect is in a way being judging of who we are because you're basing it off a standard. You're basing it off a standard that perfection exists. And without that, I summed it up in this simple phrase: imperfection can't tell imperfection what perfection is. Because if none of us are perfect, we can't tell anybody how to define any term whatsoever, because why in the world should they accept our opinion on things? But that's what points to the reality of God, the reality that He exists, because like you just naturally said that we're imperfect, and it's because inside you believe in a perfect standard. You believe in the reality that we are imperfect, and I agree with you. The reason why we are imperfect is because morality exists, and it has to come from a perfect source. And the only source where that makes any sense is if it comes from God in the first place. So I want you to understand that, and I just want to finish by saying this. We're trying to define these terms. People in every faith, every religion are trying to define these terms. What does love mean? What does hate mean? A million different things we're trying to define. And I want to share a story of a man named Ravi Zacharias. He has a lot of videos on YouTube, and honestly, there is no Christian I respect more than him, and he's just one of the smartest people that I know. But on this, how we make these definitions. He was invited to speak at the UN prayer breakfast, and he's been there a couple times, but this particular time when he went, they asked him to speak on absolutes. And I want you to picture this for a second. He's at a UN prayer breakfast, so people from every faith, every belief system, every nation on earth are in this room, and he's asked to speak on absolutes. I can't think of much of anything that would be more difficult than that, because you know that whatever you say, people are more than likely going to take issue with it because we have different understandings of what an absolute is. And he spoke on four. He spoke on four absolutes. Evil, how do you define it? Justice, how do you define it? Love and forgiveness, when are these legitimate things? And he was talking to them and he said, people here brand different empires as being evil. You want to have just societies. You miss your families because you love them, and when you stumble ethically, you want forgiveness, and you're looking for a point of reference and an absolute to be able to define these terms. And he said that by this point in the talk, everyone in the room was looking at him, wanting an answer for where this definition comes from, how you understand why those terms have value and meaning. And he said it comes from the cross of Jesus Christ, because it was the only place where these four things converged. Because it showed the evil within your heart and mine and every heart in humanity, that we took the purest person on earth in Jesus Christ and tormented him and put him up on two pieces of timber. It shows that God in his justice could have just as easily given it on us. He took it on his own son. Why? Because he loves us, and it's in that love and through that love that he offers you and me forgiveness. What a perfect way to define these terms. If you want to look for a way to define these terms, there is no better place to get that understanding than in the cross of Jesus Christ. And for any term to have meaning or value, it has to come from a perfect source. So us debating anything, having arguments or disagreements about anything, only has meaning if we're sharing the truth, and if these terms have set definitions, and we are not the source of those terms. We don't define those terms. And Dan, I just want to ask you to take a deeper look into the Bible. You said that you've looked at it before and you've agreed with some things but disagreed with some others, and I just want to say that you disagreeing with things or agreeing with them doesn't make them right or wrong. A standard already exists, and you, like me and everyone in the world, has to believe in those and follow those, even if it's not easy for us. Even if it's something that we struggle with, we still need to understand the reality that it exists, and we have to follow it. And I hope, again, for Christians, just understand the greatest example we've ever seen of love in human history, and the one that's the most dear to us. Tomorrow's Easter Sunday. It's the time where we recognize that Christ came and he died for us because of the reality of our sin. And again, not the absence of it. It's a reality. It's something we have to deal with. But keep in mind that when you're dealing with it and when you're pointing it out to other people, you have to point it out in the same way that Christ did. He came in love to take care of sin and to defeat sin. And share that message with people. Share the real meaning of what love actually is. Because that's where we define these terms. That's how we understand them. Thank you for watching this video, and it wasn't quite as long as Dan's. His was about 22 minutes, so I made it. But thank you for watching, and I hope that this sheds some light on more of what Dan was saying and what Christianity really means. Thank you.